What is up, my dudes? It is time for the video everyone on the internet's been waiting for. The number one video you've all been waiting for. It's time for my best of 2019 video. Just keep it in your pants, Terry. It's been a short while, hasn't it? Christmas happened, a new year happened, almost had a bloody war. The world almost went, didn't it? It's been a hot minute, but it's January, and that means it's time to round up my favourite films of the previous year, that being 2019. It was a good one. There were some good films in it. If you're thinking you're at least 2 weeks late on this, Stu, it's nearly the end of January. There's a reason. It's because, if you might not know, but in the UK, everything comes out later than everywhere else. And so a lot of the good films from 2019 end up coming out at the very beginning of 2020. It gets very confusing, and you'll get those people that say, well, if it came out in 2020 in the UK, that should be on your 2020 list. And to those people I say, no. Plus, here's a little toot on my own horn, but I did actually see pretty much most of the films that are coming out now in 2020 back at the London Film Festival, so I did see them in 2019. Before we start, I feel like I always have to say this, but you might not agree. You probably won't agree with this entire list. Such is the beauty of cinema, you know, we can all disagree in a civilised manner. Probably not going to happen, is it? These are 10 of my favourite films of the year in order of my preference for them. You might be thinking, why is that film not in there? Because it's not as good as the other 10 on this list. I was wondering if I was going to do honourable mentions this year, because frankly, there's nothing honourable about not winning, is there? At least that's what my mum and dad screamed at me before I went to school every morning. But I thought, you know what? Why not do honourable mentions? It maybe changes nothing about the actual list here. It's just fun to put some more films in. So here's some honourable mentions right here, scrolling up the screen. Oh, didn't expect to see that one not in the top 10, did you? Well, it isn't, because there's better films. What about this? Ooh, who saw that coming? Oh, that's certainly a film that came out in 2019. Wow, this is crazy. Can this video get any crazier? I don't know. We'll have to bloody see, won't we? So now that those are out of the way, we can get into the real shit, the good shit, the actual winners of 2019. Oh, fuck. Number 10 on my list, and one which I was kind of expecting to be higher, and I feel like could go up higher on second watching. This is one of the films that I didn't get a chance to see a second time before doing this video, but hey ho. It's Little Woman, which is Greta Gerwig's latest directorial feature. And it is a fucking wonderful film. It made me feel all the emotions, and it made me smile and cry and do everything. It's exactly what I wanted from the film. The cast of this film is amazing, and they're all doing great work. Florence Pugh is having the best year ever. Objective fact. I mean, she absolutely crushes this one, but obviously Saoirse Ronan's good. Obviously Laura Dern's in there. Was she ever going to be anything other than amazing? No. Timothée Chalamet's in the film. Oh, didn't fuck a peach in this one. Gotta be honest, was a little bit disappointed by that. It's very much pulling between sort of convention and quirkiness in a really interesting way. Really, really good film. Incredibly wholesome. Satisfied a lot of my urges. But now we arrive at number 9, which goes to The Last Black Man in San Francisco. And this is a film which I have not seen pop up in a huge amount of other best of the year lists. And I think that is, frankly, a bit of a crime. Because this film was absolutely wonderful. One of the most sort of unique and different and original debuts I've seen in quite some time. It's a beautiful film to look at. It basically tells the story of these two friends living in San Francisco, and it's looking at what it means to have a home, what it means to be a part of a community, and all of that stuff. It tackles gentrification, it tackles race, it sort of does a whole bunch in this film. It's funny, it's moving, it looks just beautiful. But I think the thing which keeps drawing me into this film again every time I think about it is that it's such a clearly personal story. It's directed by and written by two friends that go through the shit in their life, and I think that makes for an infinitely more interesting and enjoyable experience. I love this film, but yes, Last Black Man in San Francisco was by no means the last good film of 2019. I don't know what I'm doing with that segue. On to number 8, which is a recent addition to the list, and there's another reason why I'm glad I waited a little bit longer to put my list out, and that is The Nightingale. It's directed by Jennifer Kent, who is a director behind The Babadook. You might remember that film. It's the one where the little kid goes, "Don't let him in! Don't let him in! Don't let him in!" I'm aware that's not the main thing I'm supposed to take away from that film, but I can't not quote that. But this is a step away from horror in certain aspects and into an altogether different type of horror in many other ways. It's a horrible film. So let's get that straight out the way. And you might be going, a horrible film? That doesn't sound like something I want to be watching. It has perhaps one of, if not the toughest opening acts I've seen in a film for God knows how long. But I'm telling you, if you push through it and you stick with it, it evolves into so much more than just being horrible for the sake of being horrible, which is something you run the risk of falling into with a film like this. Gorgeous to look at, incredibly tough to watch, brilliantly performed. I honestly was blown away by this film. So yeah, if you are in the mood for a heavy film, watch The Nightingale. If you're not in the mood for a heavy film, probably don't. Just don't. Coming in at number 7 for me in 2019 was probably the most fun I had in a cinema all year, and that was Knives Out. I'm a big fan of Rian Johnson as a director and also general human being, and here he has crafted just an absolute gem and joy of a film in his murder mystery whodunit. It is a really quick and sharp film. The screenplay is just incredible, and seeing it a second time as well is one of those films where you pick up on so many little details that are all addressed. The cast are doing amazing work, but Daniel Craig is something else here as well. Some people are going to be like, oh, he just feels like he's hamming it up and I don't like his accent. To which I say, that is the exact point, and it works amazingly. His donut analogy in this film is one of the best bits of writing this year. It is a cracking film, one film which I think I will definitely be able to come back to time and time again. What a film, holy shit. At number 6 in my best films of 2019 is the new Safdie brothers film, Uncut Gems. This is one of the most tense experiences I've had in the cinema for quite some time. I was sweating and clenching my fists and just sort of tapping my foot on the floor throughout the basic entire last act of this film. It stars Adam Sandler in what is absolutely his best performance since Punch Drunk Love, and he has been snubbed at the Oscars for sure. But he is so watchable in this film. The character of Howie is just such an interesting and fascinating look, and something very new and different from Adam Sandler, and I love that side of things as well. But it's the look of this film and the way it's all created and crafted, the frantic nature of it that really solidifies it as one of the best of the years for me. But it feels like at any moment something could go wrong, and that's a very particular thing to be able to get right. It's difficult. It just makes for an insane, intense ride of a film. As soon as it starts, you're locked in. I'm not going anywhere, you have my attention. By the end, I was a sweaty, tense mess. It did its job. I loved it. At number 5 on my list is Trey Edward Schultz's latest film, Waves. This one's been sort of climbing up the list. When I first saw it, it's one of those films where I was like, I adored this, but there's also a lot of things in here that I need to unpack. I need a second viewing, basically. Saw it a second time recently. Yeah, just went climbing, didn't it? Just went straight up. This film, I guess in quite a similar way to Uncut Gems and what the Safdie brothers are doing, can feel very chaotic at times and very manic and very intense, but not in a way which feels like it's ever getting out of Schultz's hand. And it makes for one of the most emotionally sort of battering films I've seen this year, because the ride that this film takes you on is always subverting expectations. It's always doing something different. Spent a lot of this film crying. Not really a surprise there, but yeah, it's a powerful film. It hit me in the heart. It is non-stop. There is always something happening in the frame in this film. And the cinematography is beautiful, but I love the way that it plays with sound and visuals and all of the things in between. I absolutely loved Waves. I can't get enough of this film. But I also cannot get enough of the next film on my list. How's that for a segue, huh? At number 4 is Midsommar, which is the second film from Ari Aster, who directed Hereditary, which you may remember from my previous year's list as being one of my favourite films of that year, but also one of those films that truly fucked me. And this film is also horrible in very different ways, and that's something that I really, really appreciate and respect about Ari Aster at this point as a filmmaker. It is a strange, surreal, truly unnerving 2.5 hours, and I loved it. Florence Pugh gives probably my favourite female performance of the year in this one. I think she is just amazing here. But it is a beautifully shot film, and it explores some really fucked up shit in some really fucked up ways. There are moments in this film which have still stuck with me despite the fact that it came out in the first half of the year. It just gets under your skin in the best and worst way possible. The end of this film is something... I mean, it's something. And now we're getting to the juicy ones. A lot of these films at this point in the list are very, very close. I want to make that very aware. I've seen my next pick higher on a lot of other people's lists. Rightly so, because it is a stunning film. But at number 3 is Parasite, which is the latest film from Bong Joon-ho. Not actually out here in the UK just yet. It's out next month. But I'm here to tell you, you should be incredibly excited and you should absolutely go out of your way to see this film, because Parasite is one of those films which everyone is hyping it up, right? Everyone is saying amazing shit about this film, and you sort of think it can't really be that good, can it? And then you see it and you think it is absolutely, definitely that good. I think the less you know about this film before seeing it, the more it's gonna work on you. You watch a film like this and it reminds you of why film is just so fucking good. Sequences and sequences and sequences that are just perfectly executed to a T. There is a risk with films like this that you could sort of begin to be a little bit too aware of the filmmaking process. I don't think that's anywhere near this film's list of problems, which is itself incredibly slim anyway. The camera work is so good in this film, and the way that they shoot the spaces in this film is so genius. It's sort of like Bong Joon-ho took all of the things that are so interesting about basically every genre, threw it into one film, and did them all perfectly. The only reason it's not higher on the list is because I haven't seen it a second time yet, and at this point I'm just frankly just not willing to put it higher than the next two on this list, which I suppose is just a testament to how good the next two on this list are going to be. So buckle in for that. You've only got now to wait. Number 2 on this list is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is the latest film from Céline Sciamma, who's a French filmmaker, and it is just sublime. There's no other word for it. This film is a truly beautiful film. It's one of those films which is quite clearly not interested in all the flamboyance of certain productions, which I'm not saying that doesn't work for a lot of other productions. Every film is different and every film has reasons for doing what it's trying to do, but this film is just, it sort of strips everything away in the aims of just getting at this one central relationship, which is explored so well and is performed so well by the central duo of actresses here. I said this in my main review of this film, but I want to bring it up again because it sort of summarizes exactly what this film does special for me. There's a line between one of the characters to the other. He says, I'm paraphrasing because I haven't seen it in some time, it's probably just not this line at all. Does everyone feel like they are the first person to feel this? And it's that exact feeling, that exact emotion. It is very, very difficult to pinpoint, but it is explored to perfection in this film, in my opinion. And now we find ourselves at my favourite film of 2019. It hasn't moved since it got in here. As soon as I saw it, it was number 1 on this list, and nothing has toppled it. It is without a doubt the one film this year that I personally have not been able to think of a single thing I did not like about it. It is a lighthouse, and it is fucking incredible. It is a crazy, batshit, ludicrous, baffling film, and I absolutely adore it. Every aspect of the production on this film works for me and works for the film and just builds this incredible whole. But the performances are so good, and Willem Dafoe delivers my favourite male performance of the year, that you really do feel like you could watch these characters sort of do anything and talk about anything, and in fact they definitely do seem to talk about pretty much anything and do pretty much anything in this film. It's filled with these really sort of over the top monologues between these characters that are just crazy, and I genuinely don't believe there's a single actor that could have delivered this screenplay better than Willem Dafoe did. I love the way it's shot in this sort of cramped frame. It really feels like the actual film that this is shot on has taken a battering, in much the same way the spirit and ethos of the characters did. Film student, and it weaves between different tones in such an impressive way. I mean, at times I will be laughing because it's just so absurd, but even within the same scene where I'm laughing at something being crazy, I can immediately just be like, oh, okay, no, that's fucked. I'm actually kind of scared right now. When it ended, it felt like it ended too soon. Not because it felt like it rushed anything or that it didn't actually, as a film, do everything it needed to, purely because I didn't want it to end because I loved it so much. Lighthouse is, without a doubt, my favourite film of this year. And just like that, we come to the end of the list. Those are my top 10 favourite films of 2019. And boy, were they some best films of 2019, weren't they? I guess this is the point where I throw it back to you. Yeah? How's that for some audience interaction? No doubt you're going to have a different top 10 of the year list to me because, hey, we've all got different thoughts and different brains. So let me know in the comments down below what your 10 favourite films of 2019 were. See how they differ. Anything that I'm missing from mine that are in yours. That's all right for discussion, baby. This year, though, I am doing another list as well because, hey, look, it's a whole new decade, motherfucker. It's 2020, which means I can look back at the previous decade and say those are some good films as well. So I will be doing a top 10 maybe top 15 because there are a whole lot of fucking films, right? I'll be doing a top 10 or 15 best films of the last decade at some point within the next few weeks. Until next time, I'm off to go and revel in the fact that 1917 and Joker both didn't make it into my top 10 of the year list because they weren't that good for me, and that's probably going to upset some people in the comments down below. See you guys soon. Stay beautiful, mother truckers.